All right, so living spaces, challenges and solutions. The problem, the American Dream House. Who's involved? So, this is a subject that is relevant to basically everyone because everyone lives somewhere. Everyone wants to live in a place that is stable and safe and protects them from the elements. And so there, um, there are multiple components that make housing a complicated issue, such as affordability, cultural expectations about what's an acceptable place to live, and community and location. Some sustainability challenges having to do with living spaces. Urban sprawl is um, has happened because of this ideal housing situation in the United States where the American dream house is this big single family home with a fence and a little white picket fence and a big yard and a driveway with a big garage for all your cars that you need because you have to drive everywhere. Like, none of the things that you need, like the grocery store or work, none of those places are close by. You have to drive everywhere. So you have this increased need for personal transportation and also inefficient use of land. All of you see here in this picture all of these houses that are so similar in style and take up so much space. Another sustainability challenge is having to do with living spaces is home energy use. Um, as you can imagine, homes use a whole lot of energy, especially using heating because of heating and cooling. When you have a large building, it takes a lot of energy to heat and cool it, and also large appliances such as refrigerators and washers and dryers. Um, the energy used for these things comes almost exclusively from non-renewable resources, and we know that that is not a sustainable or resilient practice. Um, one of the studies that I read while I was researching was was done in Blacksburg, Virginia, and in that town, the second biggest consumption of energy thing was home energy use, and that was second to transportation, which we know is connected, and also home energy use created the most greenhouse gas emissions in that town. Some root causes of these problems with living spaces. Culture. Um, we the cultural practices that we've learned from our society perpetuate this idea that we need to live in separate homes with lots of space and this the thinking about our immediate family as our really our only primary community. Um, these these ideas promote the ideal housing situation as this spacious single family home. Um, and the spending hours a day commuting to work and um, driving at least 15 minutes to buy groceries and stuff. So there are other cultures in the world where people live more together. I went on SST in Nicaragua and I lived in a home, well, the first home that I lived with, my host parents, their sister lived right next door, and their grandmother lived upstairs, and they all ran this little store together, and the families were just much more woven together, and stores are much closer, and you can just run across the street to get your tortillas for the day or whatever. That like um the culture is a lot more close together. Another cause is sociology, due in part to this cultural concept of separating families into separate spaces. So much energy is used to attempt to connect people because we are humans and we want that. We need that connection to other humans. But that energy is unnecessarily used because we're creating that need by separating ourselves. So were people less physically separate, they would be more socially connected. Justice. The cost of living in many places is such that many people struggle to pay for rent or mortgages and utilities. Um, I read an article where that interviewed low income families and talked to them about how they were perceiving their energy costs, and reasonably families with very low incomes worry about paying for energy at its cost. The Yeah, people don't really think about how much energy costs. I think especially like middle class people, my like the culture that I know, that the cost of energy is just like assumed that it will be, and we'll be able to pay for it, but that people from people from lower socioeconomic statuses like have to think about that more, and I think that's really important in the design of living spaces. Another root cause of this problem is economics, that in the United States we have this growth mindset, and 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 obviously, um, as I noted before, that families can't always keep paying for bigger things. Bigger and better isn't always possible, nor is it always better. Um, some of the solutions that I'm about to propose are more affordable and um, and and make more economic sense, um, leaving behind this growth mindset and thinking about how we could make living situations better rather than bigger. So, solutions. Tiny houses. This is my favorite solution. I have recently become aware of this tiny house movement and have loved exploring some of these really creative housing options. Um, Small houses are are usually designed and built by the people or person who are going to live in them. So the homeowner has a lot of personal investment in their home, and they're proud of it, and they love their home. And I think when we get those cookie cutter houses that isn't there, you live in this house, but it's not yours in the sense that you are committed to it. Um, Tiny houses can be and typically are far more energy efficient than large houses because they're small, and and they're designed in such a way they are more efficient. And also, because of that size, it's much easier to use renewable energy sources. It would be so easy to just put solar panels on the roof of this tiny house, and there you have your renewable energy. So that's cool. Co-housing. Um, Co-housing is living in close proximity to other people and families and sharing some utilities. And this addresses some of the sociological problems that I talked about earlier that have to do with housing. Um, in co-housing, people choose to live close together in usually somewhat smaller like personal living spaces, but they can live separately as families, and then they share a common space that has utilities for larger community events. You can see that on the left in this picture, and on the right you have homes where people live. Yet another solution is infill. Now, infill is actually the direct solution to sprawl, to urban sprawl. It involves filling in unused spaces closer to urban centers, where in the middle of cities, design has not been such that space is always used effectively, and infill is thinking about going back into that urban space and thinking about how that space can be used more efficiently. Um, when when people are filling in to the middle of a city, then there is less need for transportation, which is a huge connected problem to this problem of living spaces. That to be able to get to services and workplaces and schools, that like people don't have to go as far if they're living in between a grocery store and a pharmacy or something, you know. Um, Also, when another study that I read during my research for this project was um, talking about how when housing units are built connected to each other, like an apartment complex where they're touching each other, um, energy use is reduced because there are shared walls, and so not as much needs to be um, put out to heat and cool those spaces.